everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com back again, and oh my, it's time to talk about Crown Jewel 2021. First of all, a huge thank you to everybody who got involved with Ross and Andrew's live stream, and thanks of course as well to everybody who donated. All proceeds of that live stream will be going to Amnesty International. So thank you very much everybody for donating to a great cause. We start things off with the Crown Jewel pre-show, which has a couple of developments on it with possible ramifications later on in the show. The first of these is when it's announced on the pre-show panel that the no DQ stipulation has been removed from Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. What could that possibly mean? Could we be in for a DQ finish? We'll have to wait and find out. A little bit later on, again on the pre-show, Paul Heyman is interviewed and says that, look, his allegiances are not in question whatsoever. He'll be walking to the ring with the Universal Champion Roman Reigns, and he'll be walking back to the locker room with the Universal Champion. But he doesn't say Roman's name. Oh, Paul, you sneaky devil. And then there's just the one match to talk about on the pre-show, the Usos taking on the Hurt Business in a non-title tag team match. This match, of course, is heel versus heel, which would normally be a bit of a strange dynamic, but the Usos play like full-on babyface roles here. The crowd are really behind them. There's a long beatdown segment on Jey Uso, which takes quite a while, but he eventually gets the hot tag to Jimmy. And it's generally a good match, but down the stretch, there's a few missed super kicks here and there, which are sold anyway, and I was just kind of thinking, are the guys maybe a little bit jet lagged? Generally though, it was a decent match. The Usos, of course, pick up the win with a big splash, and we're on to the main portion of the show. And we start with a big match. It's Edge versus Seth Rollins inside Hell in a Cell. And the most exciting moment of the night for me, we see as Rollins makes his entrance. There's camels at the side of the stage. I can't believe it. While Rollins is waiting in the ring for Edge, he gets a little bit of a fright at the start of Edge's entrance music, which I think is a very nice character touch. And Edge takes control early on, Rollins missing a suicide dive right into the side of the cell, and Edge hits an execution, but just for two. Rollins takes control, battering Edge with a chair. He goes for a concerto, but Edge gets out of the way and gets the crossface applied. But then Rollins gets out, stabbing Edge in the eye with a chair leg. Rollins goes up top for a Phoenix Splash, but Edge shoves him off the top rope into the side of the cell, and then Rollins falls through a table below. An amazing bump from Seth Rollins, it has to be said. Back in the ring, Edge lays out Rollins on a set of ring steps. He heads up top with a steel chair and nails a chair-assisted elbow drop right to the chest of Seth. Edge goes for the spear, but Seth avoids it and nails the pedigree, but Edge kicks out at 2, burying Triple H in the process. Then they do the same thing in reverse, Edge avoiding the curb stomp and getting the spear, but again, it's only enough for 2. They battle on a ladder above a table below, and Rollins nails a sunset bomb through the table, but again, Edge kicks out. This match is going quite long. Rollins thinks, right, it's time to end it now, and wraps a chain around his foot for a kick to the head. He goes for a stomp as well, but Edge lifts the chair in between Rollins' legs, and Rollins low blows himself. Edge gets a wrench-assisted crossface applied, and it looks like Seth is really about to tap, but Edge lets go. He wants to end it a different way, which involves a curb stomp onto a steel chair, and that finally is enough for 3. Edge wins, and takes his time leaving as well. This was a long match and a long segment around it too. It was good though. It was your entertaining sort of modern Hell in a Cell match with nothing too outrageous apart from that Seth bump off the side of the cell through the table below. That was quite something. Next up, we have Mustafa Ali taking on Riyadh's own Mansoor. Who's gonna win? Mansur's going to win. They go back and forth to start the match with Ali really healing it up and shouting at commentary, and at one stage pulling the apron out from under Mansur's feet, causing him to take a bit of a nasty tumble to the outside. That was quite an inventive spot. Ali takes control of the match with a camel clutch and a nice tornado DDT, but it only gets 2. Ali talks mad trash, but of course Mansoor makes his big comeback. He goes for the moonsault, but he hurt his neck previously in the match, so he can't cover quickly enough, and Ali reverses the pinfall attempt into a Koji clutch. Mansoor just manages to avoid passing out and makes the ropes, so Ali heads up top, misses a 450, and Mansoor hits his springboard neckbreaker thingy for the 3 count. The hometown kid wins again. But whereas previously we're used to seeing Mansoor win in Saudi Arabia and then cut a lovely heartwarming post-match promo, this time Ali jumps in from behind during his celebration. Who's gonna come and save the day? Well, some unfamiliar music hits and an unfamiliar figure makes his way down to the ring in a martial arts gi, wearing a headscarf. We can't quite see his face. Who on earth is it? The mystery man slowly makes his way down the ramp and slowly gets in the ring and slowly reveals his face. And commentary are like, oh, you know who that is? And they're like, yeah, we do. And I'm like, no, I genuinely don't. But that's because I didn't pay too close attention to the Olympics this year, for that is apparently Saudi Arabian silver medalist Tareg Hamedi. Silver medalist in what, you ask? Only karate, guys. Ali goes for Hamedi, but he just takes him down with a lightning fast head kick, and he and Mansur celebrate and head to the back. So yeah, that was cool. Next up, Titus O'Neil and Natalya do a very touching segment about breast cancer awareness. Obviously, that's very important. And Titus even busts out some Arabic as well, which is very impressive. So yeah, just a nice segment all round. Next up, we have the Raw Tag Team title match as AJ Styles and Omos take on the champions Riddle and Randy Orton. And of course, Riddle rides a camel to the ring. They were never going to keep us hanging with Chekhov's camel. Randy is super over as the faces dominate the early stages, but then Omos wants Orton one-on-one in the ring and totally overpowers him. AJ and Omos take control for a while, but the champions fight back. Orton looks to hit the draping DDT on AJ, but Omos tries to get involved from the apron, so Riddle grabs his legs from the outside, but gets kicked away. But it's enough of a distraction for Orton to smash or drape or stun Omos. You know when they grab their head and drag them over the top rope? He does that to Omos, yeah. So Orton is now free of Omos, but AJ flies in with a phenomenal forearm attempt, but Orton hits an RKO out of nowhere. Tag to Riddle, floating bro, 1, 2, 3, and the champions retain. Next, we have the final of the Queen's Crown tournament between Doudrop and Zelina Vega. The start of this match is one of those stare downs where it's like they're very different heights. Way! And the match progresses with Zelina Vega having to use her speed and agility to evade the power advantage of Doudrop. Doudrop misses a cannonball but later nails a senton, but it's only enough for 2. She then tries to follow up with a standing splash, but Vega rolls out of the way. And that's the opening that Zelina Vega needs to get in position for the code red, nail it, and pin Doudrop's shoulders for a 3 count. Zelina Vega is the first ever Queen's Crown winner. She heads up the ramp, sits in the throne with the crown and the scepter, and the ring announcer says, "All hail Queen Vega," and yeah, she waves like the Queen. And that's it. She's won. The match wasn't, the longest match. It was a reasonable length. Maybe not for a tournament final, but certainly compared to the length of the other matches in this tournament, it was a lot more acceptable. Next up, we get Goldberg versus Bobby Lashley. No DQ, falls count anywhere. Goldberg, in the build to this one, was obviously very, very angry, but Lashley's ready for this, sneakily bringing a chain to the ring down his pants. Oh, Bobby, what you like? And therefore, Lashley takes control straight away, beating up Goldberg with the chain wrapped around his fist. He also wraps a steel chair around Goldberg's damaged knee and stomps on it, which just immediately hands the advantage to Lashley. But the turning point comes when Lashley sets up a table in the corner and tries to spear Goldberg through it, but Goldberg moves and Lashley crashes through. Goldberg then hits a spear and the jackhammer, but he doesn't go for the cover. Instead, he takes off his gloves. He wants to administer more punishment because he's Bill Goldberg. He throws Lashley to the outside and spears him through the barricade into the timekeeper's area. Then he puts Lashley's head on the ring steps and tries to squash it with the other half of the ring steps. Kind of like a concerto, I'm going to call it, guys. But Lashley manages to get out the way, otherwise, it would be very, very bad for him, and heads up the ramp where he calls upon the Hurt Business. Cedric and Shelton arrive with kendo sticks, but Goldberg quickly takes care of them before facing off with Lashley in a kendo stick battle, which again Goldberg pretty easily wins. Lashley teeters on the edge of the ramp and Goldberg spears him off the side through a pile of tables below, makes the cover, and Bill Goldberg wins the match. You know what? I've got a few thoughts about this because one, Lashley got absolutely dominated by Bill Goldberg, but at the same time, as a match itself, especially a Goldberg match in the modern day, it was pretty all right, to be fair. But again, yes, the wider issue is, the kind of the misbooking, the mistreatment of a pretty big deal on the main roster in Bobby Lashley and a recent WWE champion, of course. They do show Lashley walking away at the end. I wonder if that was a deliberate camera cut to try and perhaps protect him a little bit, but I'm not certain. Next, it's time for the King of the Ring final. Finn Bálor taking on Xavier Woods. Woods has to win this, right? It's his destiny. Right? There's a nice fist bump to start, a lot of sportsmanship, and then off we go, back and forth. And you know what? Woods, despite being the underdog in kayfabe at least, isn't just holding his own. He's actually getting quite a lot of offense in. Bálor does eventually take control of the match with a big standing double stomp, but then Woods gets a near fall with a flash super kick out of nowhere. They continue with this theme of near falls, agonizing near falls for Xavier Woods, one off a roll-up and one off a big superplex. He goes for his rope walk elbow drop, but gets knees for a near fall for Bálor this time, but then Woods avoids the coup de grace and rolls up Bálor for 2 once again. Woods again climbs the ropes and goes again for the elbow drop, and this time he nails it. 1, 2, 3, and Xavier Woods gets what he's always wanted the most. He is the King of the Ring. Woods celebrates with the crown and the scepter and says to the camera now he's got all the power and everything. And I think he was joking. It's Xavier Woods after all. But was he joking? Are we going to get an Xavier Woods heel turn where he gets consumed by this power? I don't know. I wouldn't bet on it, but maybe that's just my reading of the situation. It seemed a little bit heelish, but I mean, maybe I'm reading far too much into it. Next up, we have the WWE Championship match, Big E defending against Drew McIntyre. Coming into this match, there didn't seem to be a lot of suspense behind it because with Drew going to SmackDown, it would take quite a lot of booking changes to have the belt go over with him cross-brand, so I didn't feel too much heading into this one. But we'll see how it went. Drew starts off strong, nailing a belly-to-belly on the floor, and then continuing to dominate inside with a huge spine buster. But then Big E fights back and starts to take Drew to Suplex City. But then Drew fights back and nails some suplexes of his own. Basically, there's a lot of belly-to-belly suplexes in this match, and some instances of the belly-to-belly suplexes' slightly more flashy cousin, the overhead belly-to-belly suplex. The Future Shock DDT gets a near fall for Drew. He goes for the Claymore, but Big E reverses into a stretch muffler, but Drew manages to get out. But then he runs into a big ending, and it gets a near fall. That's a bit of a surprise. The finisher wasn't enough to put Drew away. Is Big E's title reign in danger? Big E then goes for an avalanche version of the big ending, but Drew reverses and hits a super bulldog for another near fall. Drew then finally hits the Claymore, but Big E manages to kick out. So Drew then tries to steal Big E's finisher, going for the big ending, but Big E slips out, hits one of his own. That's 2 finishers now on Drew McIntyre, and it's enough to keep him down for 3. Big E is still the WWE champion. This was a great match. As I say, there wasn't that much excitement for me personally heading into it, but they really delivered in the ring, as we probably should have expected they would. They're both great. Next up, we have the SmackDown Women's Championship triple threat match with Becky Lynch defending against both Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. Bianca shows off her insane strength early on, pressing Sasha overhead with one hand. Becky takes control of the match for a while, and this is a good opportunity to say that she is over in Saudi Arabia. Very over, easily the most popular woman in this match, and one of the most popular superstars of the whole night. There's quite a lot of nifty triple threat spots in this match, but honestly, there was so much to try and recap that I've had to cut some of them out, because this was a really ambitious match, really cleverly put together. But eventually, Becky and Sasha both bust out their submission finishers on Bianca before deciding to go for each other, and Sasha gets the bank statement on Becky Lynch, but Bianca hits a standing moonsault to break the hold. Sasha mockingly grabs Bianca's hair, but she uses it to flip Sasha into a pinning predicament, but at the last second, Becky charges across the ring to break it up just in time. The manhandle slam on Sasha gets a 2 count after Belair breaks it up, and we're getting the sense that this is a very even contest between all 3 women. Sasha tries to powerbomb Bianca off the apron, but she backflips out and lands on the floor. Then they tangle on the outside, and Becky takes both down, leaping out of nowhere. Well, not out of nowhere, from the announce table. Out of somewhere. Back in the ring, Becky gets the disarmer on both women at the same time, but Bianca's on the bottom of the pile, and she stands up and lifts both on her shoulders, but she takes a backstabber from Sasha. Bianca regains control, though, and hits the KOD on Becky, but then both Sasha and Bianca scramble desperately for the pinfall, throwing each other out of the ring, tripping each other by the legs, that sort of thing. It's Sasha who gets to Becky first, but Becky rolls her up and grabs the bottom rope for the 3 count, with Bianca just not in the ring in time to break the fall. And there we have it. Becky Lynch is still the SmackDown Women's Champion, even though she's heading to Monday Night Raw. I expect they'll do some sort of title exchange between her and Charlotte Flair, because Charlotte's heading to SmackDown, and it would, give Charlotte another reign to add to the collection. But as I say, this was a very intelligently structured match between three very talented wrestlers. They really went for it, and they pulled off some stuff that I've never really seen before in a triple threat match, so credit to all three. And finally, the main event of the night, the Universal Champion Roman Reigns taking on Brock Lesnar. Brock goes for German suplexes early on, but Roman keeps holding on to the ropes to block the move. He's done his homework, and also faced Brock in 2 separate WrestleMania main events. Roman Superman punches Lesnar off the apron and nails a huge dive over the top rope to the outside. Back in the ring, Lesnar walks into a spear, but it only gets 2, so Roman goes for another spear, but Lesnar leapfrogs over him, and Roman crashes into the corner. Lesnar starts to hit his suplexes and an F5, but it's only good enough for 2. He goes for another one, but Roman locks in the guillotine, but Brock manages to power out. Lesnar nails another F5, but Roman lands on Charles Robinson, the referee, so he can't make the count, but Lesnar does get a visual pinfall. Lesnar tries to revive Robinson by picking him up one-handed and dropping him. It doesn't work, but it was a nice attempt by Brock Lesnar. He then turns back to the center of the ring, straight into another spear from Roman, and now both men are down. Paul Heyman on the outside does not know what to do. He doesn't know where his allegiances lie, or does he? Well, we don't know where his allegiances lie. He throws the Universal title belt in between both men, and they each grab a side of it. Brock wins the tug of war, but here come Jimmy and Jey Uso, who knock him down with a double super kick. Roman grabs the Universal Championship, nails Lesnar with it, and here comes a second official just in time. 1, 2, 3, and Reigns is still the Universal Champion. Roman celebrates on the stage with the Usos and Heyman, but Heyman's not celebrating, and Roman glares at him as he takes the belt from him, very much conveying the message, I still don't know if I trust you. This was an entertaining main event for sure, and it leaves the door open for an all-important rematch. I mean, Lesnar was absolutely seething in the ring afterwards. And so that's it. That is what happened at Crown Jewel 2021. Honestly, yeah, a very good WWE pay-per-view. Easily the best one to take place in Saudi Arabia, which is obviously a good thing for those in attendance and, you know, a nice thing to watch. But at the same time, what does it say about WWE's priorities? Obviously, this deal with Saudi Arabia is very, very controversial indeed. And, you know, they're kind of stacking their chips in Saudi Arabia now. They're putting on big 4-level shows in Saudi Arabia. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens going forwards, I guess. But for now, that's what happened. Leave your thoughts and opinions on any of these matches down in that comment section below. And thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from Cultaholic. Stay safe out there, stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.